What up, world? It's your boy Mark Waldo Ward. I got Ebonee Benson with me today on this special episode. She's a well-regarded publicist, PR person. She's served as a spokesperson for numerous celebrities and notable figures at various points, particularly Bill Cosby during the course of his trial. She has a book and a podcast series coming out about that called To Kill a Legacy. We're going to speak with her today about that. Her time as a publicist, her career, some of her thoughts on some of the issues regarding things, and just get to know her a little bit in general. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning. In reading your bio, I see you have a background in the beauty world. Can you speak on that a little bit, or the pageant world, actually?
Both. You're right. The beauty world, pageant world. I started pageants when I was in high school, my senior year. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And just on a whim, I ended up placing top 10. And I had learned from a couple of other girls that it was a easy way to get some scholarship money, because you can win in the different categories. Like you can win talent, you can win swimsuit, you can win interview, community service. So you don't have to win the title in order to get scholarship money. Okay. Yeah, that's that was like a little nugget for the game. So when I graduated from high school, I actually was doing choreography for my old high school and some other high schools around the town, and that sparked my entrepreneurial spirit. And then later in 2005 and 2010, I was selected to be Miss Black Alabama USA, went on to become top 15 at Miss Black USA. So pageant and beauty went hand in hand. I eventually, after undergrad at the University of Alabama, I went on to a Paul Mitchell partner school here in Birmingham, Alabama for hair and makeup. So I actually left Alabama in 2011 and went to LA. This is before I kicked off my whole PR career. And I thought I was going to be a makeup artist and a hairstylist.
Man, so it's amazing how things turn out. And I know there's a time issue, but man, I could talk to you about so much stuff. But just real quick, sum it up.
Yeah.
2 life lessons that you learned during your time in pageants.
Public speaking is very important. Knowing how to answer questions properly. Well, first listen to the question, answer the question properly. Public speaking is very important. And the second thing would be that it really doesn't matter what you do. People are going to have something to say about it. So make sure you're doing something that makes you happy.
Can I tell you something I've observed about you already in regards to speaking?
Yes.
I truly value this commodity. I can tell that you're actually listening to what I'm saying instead of trying to figure out the next thing you're going to say.
Right.
Thank you.
Listening is a huge part of speaking.
That's a level of regard that people don't often give one another, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now going from the pageantry and college, you became a publicist by, some of it might have been you had the right eye or been in the right time in the right place, but you're one of the few people I've heard of who's, had a client, did well with a client, and got picked up by a major firm without the traditional publicity background, which I think is just amazingly impressive. And can you kind of run us through your early years in publicity leading up to you joining one of the most prestigious publicity firms in America, if not the world?
Absolutely. The owner of Purpose PR Firm is actually who taught me everything I know. Andrew Wyatt, who you've seen me do interviews with in the past about Bill Cosby, he's from Alabama as well. When I was Miss Black Alabama in 2010, that was my second time having the title, and I really didn't know what I was doing. The pageant no longer had a director at that time. So I essentially became responsible for building my own brand. And at the time, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, and that is a part of communications and public relations and marketing. I just wanted to, go around my state and be in my community so my people could know me, and also get sponsorships, so that I could go to the national competition. So I was given 2 email addresses from a young lady, Rashida Leroy. She's from Birmingham as well. She has a PR firm. She'll actually be working on the World Games that'll be here in 2022. She's awesome. Shout out, Rashida.
Oh, shout out.
Rashida gave me 2 emails and said, hey, these are a couple people that I've worked with. Reach out to them and see what they can do. The only person that reached back out to me was Andrew Wyatt. And so he basically coached me through the branding process for Miss Black Alabama. And in that time, I just was like, ooh, I kind of like this. Like, this is really fun, especially because I was pouring really everything into myself, what I loved. My platform was called MOVE, which is an acronym for motivating others through volunteering efforts. I'm a huge advocate in the community. Like, you will always see me doing something for my people. So it just was, when I saw the
Let me cut you off there, cut you off there, and I apologize. Real quickly, what's a easy thing that people can do to improve their community? Like one thing, me particularly, I hold trash in my pocket till I get near a trash can, and if I see plastic bags or anything to blow in my yard, I pick them up and put them in my trash can.
Something as simple as that. You know what I mean? Talk to people in your community. That's another way you can help your community. Sometimes we move to certain areas because we like the way it looks, but we end up going to other areas for entertainment. So we don't actually engage in that community. So yeah, I would say just like engage, talk to people. Like something as simple as picking up a piece of paper that you see on the ground instead of walking over it thinking that that's somebody else's job and it's not yours.
All right, so, now back to your time and publicity. I'm sorry. I just see you got these keen insights. I don't want to leave any money on the table, you know.
It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, after I passed my title on to my successor, I went full force in the beauty industry. And even from what I learned about public relations during the pageant time, I started applying that as well. I ended up doing Robin Givens' hair when she came to Birmingham. That was the first time I actually met Cosby. I was doing hair. I wasn't even a publicist. So he came to Alabama with Wyatt. Wyatt's firm wasn't the official spokesperson at the time, but they were just working together. And so 2012, I'm in LA. I'm feeling like I'm living my life. You know, I made it out of Alabama, made it to the West Coast, the best coast, right? And things just changed. My job at the makeup counter just went down. Now I'm out in California and I'm paying 3 times more than I was paying in Alabama. And so I decided to rely on what I knew, which was public relations. And I just started building my own brand as a publicist and started putting myself out there to people. And the first person to give me a real look is heavyweight boxer Brian Jennings. So shout out to him, North Philly in the building. He definitely trusted me, and that just from there, PR was the thing. So.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? So at the time, for instance, was he getting boxing interviews? Like what, because publicists can mean so many things. Were you getting placements in boxing websites?
Yeah, so
like a lot of times publicists end up kind of being like a manager. Did you ever end up like negotiating like marketing deals for him and things of that nature?
I didn't have to. He definitely had a manager. He actually is now with I want to say Jay Prince. I believe he's still. I haven't worked with him since.
That works out well in boxing. So
yeah, I know you're in the music industry, so you would know. Met Jay Prince. He's an amazing man. And basically, when I reached out to him, well, let me back up. I knew I wanted to work with individuals and businesses, primarily my people, but I was open to whoever. The other thing I knew that I wanted was to be on the ground floor of something. I didn't want to try to go into something where somebody already had this or already had that. So I went to the University of Alabama. I knew a lot of guys that got drafted and were in the NFL. So at first I thought that would be the avenue, that would be the easiest thing. I'm a sports
Right.
girl. I know about sports. Let me go towards football. But when I realized there was so much red tape, there's so many different politics that are involved in it, I was like, I want to deal with somebody that's, again, people don't really know, but they know. At the time, he was number 16 in the heavyweight world. And I felt that that was a great place for me because, like you said, interviews, one of the biggest interviews I got for him was on 106 in Park with Mike Tyson. I'll never forget that.
Oh, wow.
It was at the end of the 106 in Park days, and Bow Wow had created like this little man cave section of the show, and Mike Tyson and Brian Jennings were among some of those first people to come on the show. So yeah,
So
even
did you
from
get did you get to
clothing,
go?
I did, absolutely. That was actually my first time in New York. Was going
So
to
there has been
106 in
some
Park.
fun times as a publicist.
Oh my gosh, I love it because you really become family. Like even with Bill Cosby, I stayed on the property during both trials and sentencing. You know, we rode to court every day. We ate together. You know, I was on his property. I stayed in the garage apartment that was, I mean, right there by the main house. But
And
yeah, you become
were you
family.
so your work with the boxer and then other things you did got you attached to the firm. And did the firm assign you to work with the Cosbys? How did it
So
come about that
yeah.
became your beat as it would be?
Okay, so when I started working with Bryant, I was completely on my own. Even though Wyatt, through his firm, Purpose PR firm, had taught me everything I knew, I wanted to do my own thing. I've just always been that person. I'll learn it and then I want to go and do it myself. So in 2015, Bryant fought for the heavyweight championship of the world against Klitschko. And I was getting a little, there was some changes happening in my life. And I was like, I just want to be a normal person, right? Normal person. And so I decided I'm going to become a flight attendant. I'm going to put PR down for
Really?
3 years. Really. I was like, I'm going to put PR down for 3 years. I just want to work a regular job and then I'll go back to PR. That was 2015. In 2017, I literally ran into Andrew in the airport.
Wow.
Random. I didn't
Serendipitous.
even, I'm telling you, I didn't even know he was still working on the team. I didn't, like, I had seen the stuff about Bill Cosby, but I wasn't really paying it any attention. By that time, I was living in Detroit. So it just was, it was like, oh, that's not on my radar. And so 2017, that was February, I ran into January, February, I ran into him. By that March, me and him had reconnected. He was telling me some of the issues that he was having with the media and interviews and things like that. At that time, they weren't even considering him the firm that was representing Mr. Cosby. They would still be posting him as the aide. You know how media can try to be a little funny. So I
If you don't
came
mind
up,
me asking, what ethnicity is this gentleman?
he's Black.
You think that might have added to why he was the aide?
Absolutely. Why they printed that he was the aide, knowing that he was the crisis management specialist on the case. So,
It's funny how you can figure things out because, like, I had no idea what ethnicity this gentleman was, and I can figure it out by the stereotype that clearly was leveraged against him, given the
absolutely,
socioeconomic location and demographics involved there. But they say
absolutely,
there's no systemic racism. Ironic, isn't it?
very. So, um, they were getting ready to go to jury selections. This was before the first trial. At this point, I was not on the team. We came up with a campaign because he had been such a huge influence in my career. I just felt like, hey, I can do this. Just come up with this campaign for you. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to cost me anything. So the book cover, actually, why the book cover, the image is so important is because we did a campaign called the Restoration of Legacy, and I had an artist paint this painting of Mr. Cosby, and we then went to New York to present it to him. So that's what got me reintroduced to Bill Cosby, was that campaign. And still, again, I
So
wasn't on
you
the
showed
team.
that cover to Mr. Cosby?
It's an actual painting. The painting is in Cosby's house now. So me, the artist, because the artist is actually my cousin. Shout outs to Michael Atkins. He's an amazing artist. He's actually my cousin. I knew he was amazing at art. So I knew we were going to try to do this campaign. I was like, we commissioned him to do the painting. And then me, Michael, Andrew, we all flew to New York and presented the painting to Mr. Cosby. And basically that strategy was to open up the people that didn't really know Cosby. Because I feel like the generation maybe after or the one after that, they don't really know him. You know, they just knew this man that's been accused of sexual assault, and then that was it. So we wanted to connect to a different audience. And so that's why we chose the medium of art. And then after that campaign, I was asked by Andrew and his firm to come on simply for the first child for 2 weeks. And then Mrs. Cosby and Mr. were very pleased. And then that's when I came on permanently.
I know you can't get into specifics, but what was your relationship like with Mrs. Cosby?
Camille is amazing. That will be detailed in the book. Camille is amazing. She has her own chapter. She is one of the most intelligent, passionate, most humble women I've ever met in my life, to be who she is, you know.
Does she get a bad rap?
I don't know. I don't know that people say anything bad about her except why she would choose to stay with her husband. I don't know that people really say anything bad.
There's a guilt by complicity thing.
I guess if she were on trial, but she's not. So
I remember a time, like you said, how people forget. I remember a time, you know, I disliked Cosby because of how much he was against rap after I grew up loving him, before I ever heard any of this type of stuff, you know. But I always remember Camille as being a huge benefactor for the arts.
Huge. They have one of the largest Black art collections in the world.
And just you know, helping secure funding for young artists, because, you know, think of how many times that artists get lost because they can't afford to actually be artists. You know, other countries sponsor artists and let them live off the ability to be artists, where we make our artists, you know, if they want to pursue it, have to work minimum wage jobs that have, you know, tenuous futures. So a lot of people in America that would have been great world renowned artists have to abandon it so they can, you know, go work at the hardware store or some shit.
Yeah. There's a interview clip of Cosby, I want to say it may be from the 80s, excuse me, but he talks about his original aspirations to be a jazz musician. So I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper into his love for music and not necessarily his dislike for a genre.
See, and for me, it's hard to separate the two. And I understand he's been humongous. I mean, he allowed jazz recordings that thought were lost to get restored out of a considerable cost to himself. But that still doesn't make it up to me personally. He personally tried to squash the art form that I love the most musically. So, I mean, that is what it is.
Everyone has their own preference, you know. He also chose not to cuss in any of his comedic acts. So that's just who he is, you know. He's always wanted, and I can speak to this, and this is me personally, even though I listen to rap, I do understand how it is a tool that can be used to keep people that look like me, not you, but people that look like me in a certain level, because music has frequencies. Music, you know, words just don't come out of the speaker and they lay there aimlessly. They don't, you know, words have a lot of power. And so again, I listen to rap. I probably listen to some of the worst rap, okay? But I do understand, for me, I'm a different person. I know where to separate it, but a young mind doesn't. A young impressionable mind doesn't know that. So, you know, again, it's just, I understand you have a love for it, but I think he had more of a love for his community and saw what it had the possibility to do in terms of And not just that music is the only thing that destroys a community. I'm not saying that,
Right.
but it is very impactful.
Have you ever read Michael Eric Dyson's Is Bill Cosby Right?
I've read some of it.
That put things in perspective. Like I said, I grew up right outside DC in the 90s. So, you know, I have a unique perspective on things. I've been over policed and sentenced under mandatory minimum drug laws and things of that nature. So I might be looking at it from the different angle of what you might see from me surface level.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just never liked Bill Cosby being against rape, but I love against rap, excuse me. But Bill Cosby growing up. But during your time as the Cosby spokesperson, did you ever feel like a level of confliction? Or, I mean, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be confliction about what you were doing.
Not.
How about the negative feedback you were getting? Because
absolutely not. Because America. I'll answer your question. I'm a free, independent thinker, meaning
yeah, definitely
I don't take anybody's word for anything. Just putting it plainly. When I agreed to join the team for the 2 weeks of the first trial, I specifically told my associate, if I get in this courtroom and the evidence they have against him shows that he is guilty, I'm walking away. I have integrity. But when I got in there and saw that everything that was happening in the courtroom was way different than what was on the media, I was like, does anybody else see this but me? Like, and my associate and the defense attorneys, you know.
That's hard.
That's hard. At that point, and court TV wasn't around at that time. You know, it just made its comeback.
So you went against popular opinion.
I went against a movement, not just popular opinion. I was against the movement. So yeah, it didn't. I know who I am, and again, I know what evidence I have poured through. The depositions, I have poured through the motions that have been filed. Like, again, I'm not just talking about something that streamed across the news TV screen for 30 seconds and now you say 60 women have I don't care about none of that. I'm talking about, like you said, being in the criminal system. We're talking about facts. Where the facts at, where the evidence at. And if we don't have that, then we're not talking about a court of law. We're talking about a court of public opinion. And if that's what we're going to do, that man shouldn't be on trial. If it's simply how we feel about Bill Cosby, then he shouldn't be on trial. But if it's going to be about evidence, then let it be about evidence. So, yeah. Excuse me.
What am I missing? I know you can't give away your book, but what's some of the takeaways that the readers that are going to have from your book that without being too specific?
They will get to be inside of the trial. Every single trial from beginning to end, from a perspective that, I mean, I have nothing to gain by telling my truth. Because everybody has a truth, right? So I feel if people want to know more than what they've had access to, that will be the biggest takeaway. You're right inside. The good, the bad, the ugly, the in between. A big thing is I didn't sign an NDA. So I have the freedom and the liberty to speak. I left the team in 2018. It had nothing to do with Cosby. Had nothing to do with Bill or Camille, okay? Had everything to do with issues within the media team. I stepped away, but I didn't stop fighting. And so now I'm not attached to the team. He's not paying me to say this, you know? So right. I feel that even adds more credibility to what I have to say, is that it's literally my experience, what I saw, so.
You know, I don't want to count your pockets, but, you know, in doing my research, you know, I see you have a travel blog and, you know, you're, you know, you don't get to those kind of places on bus tokens. So point being, not only do you not have anything to gain, because clearly you don't need the money. And again, not to count your pockets, I apologize. In some aspects, one could say you might have something to lose.
If But if people feel telling your truth is a loss, then maybe. But
Or maybe some clients might choose not to in the PR for a couple years. You know, you might lose some clients.
I'm not worried about that. If they want to go, go. That means when they go, two more that need to be there will show up. You know,
Yeah, good point.
So I've had some amazing experiences. I cannot. I've been so blessed. Let me just say, you know. So I know that. So that's why I say I'm not afraid to lose anything in terms of money, because I'm wealth means so many things to me. To be honest.
You chose the title To Kill a Legacy, not meaning that you're putting the final nail in the coffin, but you watched a legacy be killed.
Yes, and also one of my favorite books growing up, and I actually talked about this quite a bit during interviews, was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And for many that have never read the book, have never heard of the book, it's a fictional story based.
It's a very easy read. I would highly recommend getting it. You can find it on Amazon probably for less than $7. Everyone allowed to read it.
Yeah. So that book, I remember I went to a predominantly white high school here in Birmingham. That's where I actually read the book. And for those that don't know, a Black man was wrongly accused of rape in Jim Crow, Alabama.
When was it wrote?
60,
late 50s, early 60s, right?
Yeah. Somewhere in there. So we're talking
still
Jim Crow
topical
era.
and relevant.
I mean, we not even 100 years from that, let's be honest, from when the book was written. So
yes,
less than 100 years ago. So it basically, just long story short, it's told from the eyes of a young white girl who basically sees a man being destroyed from a lie, and basically witnessing people who with privilege and people who could do it. And I never thought that book would become relevant in my adult age at any point. Like, let me tell you, it was one of those books that I was kind of happy to be done reading, because anytime it's something dealing with race and you're at a predominantly white school, you just feel like everybody's looking at you like, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? And I've always been very vocal.
I can relate. I went to a predominantly Black school, and I remember I was reading not Huey Newton, it was Elaine Brown. I was reading Elaine Brown's autobiography, and everybody was just looking at me crazy. It felt like everywhere I was.
Yeah, so I didn't see that it was going to actually play a part until being in this trial and just seeing a person be destroyed, and that's where the title came from. The name of the painting is Restoration of Legacy. That's what we called the painting. And that's what we actually called that campaign that we did, where the painting was created. So everything just kind of came together, you know, To Kill a Legacy, To Kill a Mockingbird, the painting, it just all worked out perfectly. I don't know. So yeah, that's where the title came from.
We definitely got to touch on the podcast series. Is that released? When will it be coming out? Is the book released?
The book will be released early 2021. The podcast will come subsequently with the book, because I want to basically go through the book with my readers, with my audience, explaining
I can't wait to read
things.
it. I cannot wait to read it.
I can't wait.
I'm a big reader, so
I can't wait for y'all to have it. This is when I say it has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, or I've ever done, simply because
writing is hard.
All it required was me telling my story. And even now, me sitting here talking to you about it, and I've talked about it so many times, it was like when it came down to actually putting it into words to where people would relate and could understand, it was like, what am I doing? I don't know. So
don't worry, it'll be a grand hit. It'll do fantastic.
Yeah. And it made me so emotional too, because there's a section of it where I actually talk about my great uncle who died a political prisoner, who was accused of raping a white police officer's wife. and was subsequently sentenced to life in prison. So
that
he was
sounds
accused,
pretty
remember,
unlikely. Not that he was sentenced to life in prison, but the circumstances.
exactly. Okay. And again, we're talking about in Jim Crow South at
Yeah,
the
that
time.
sounds highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. So
Probably got a better chance of winning the lottery than you do of meeting a black dude in Jim Crow South in Alabama that would rape a police officer's wife.
exactly. So I talk a lot, well, not a lot. I briefly touch on why maybe some people would question how I could support someone like this, or how can you not believe women? You know, that's why, because I know people who
Can you
lied, whether
elaborate? Can
they're
you elaborate on why you support? Because I don't want you to give too much away. So
yeah, no, yeah, I can definitely elaborate on that. Everybody's not honest. That's why I don't. And when you're talking about a court of law, you have to have evidence. It can't just be because I said so.
yeah, hearsay is inadmissible by the Supreme Court, apparently, except in some cases.
It's when they want it to be, right? And
There's
it's
a lot of
crazy.
money in the Cosby estate. I can see they always say in a crime there's motivation.
Not even that. We're talking about a legacy. We're talking about ruining a legacy. When you think of how many generations this man has touched, how detrimental it was, and also I want to say this, and not putting him in any category, but typically when it comes to destroying a prominent Black person's legacy, it comes with sexual indiscretions or drugs. Like, we've seen this story over and over and over and over and over again. And even when a person is acquitted, it doesn't change. And the only reason I'm going to say this is because it's an example. I don't want to bring his story into this, but R. Kelly was acquitted of a jury of his peers acquitted him. And now people are like, well, I knew he was guilty then. Like, it's like, but this isn't public opinion. This is the law. And we have to there has to be a straight line, a definitive distinction between public opinion and the law. And so, yeah, I feel that people lie. And if a person is going to be charged criminally with something, you better make sure you got all the evidence. That's just how I feel.
And now to segue a little bit, without assuming, I mean, okay, let's say it's safe to say that Bill Cosby has been tarnished. There's no, regardless of what his actions were, his legacy has been tarnished. I mean, hence the name of your book. Right. And when there's things of that nature and there's people we grew up looking up to, how do you reconcile, the truth you're presented today with what the truth you grew up believing? Like, how does one sum these things up, I guess, would be a good way, because humans are always looking for closure.
I would encourage everyone to look within themselves, right? I'm pretty sure if somebody came looking in my closet with a flashlight and a white glove, they're gonna find something. How would you want to be handled if you were in that position? Because we're all striving for something, right? Or some type of greatness, or, maybe even you with your music or your former music aspirations. You never know what type of platform that would have catapulted you to, right? So right. You just being this kid from outside of DC, that just has a dream, and now you're here, and things that wouldn't be highlighted are now highlighted. I feel like it's such a slippery slope, because I hear some people say, well, that's what comes with the territory, and well, that's what you get when you sign up for this. But it's like, so me signing up to make my dreams happen means that I'm signing up to be attacked by people who, you know what I mean? It just,
Yeah.
I just encourage people to look at themselves. Just look at yourself, man. Like
Dave Chappelle said, don't be brittle.
for real. For real. For real. I can't think of any other way to say it, but that's what I feel like it is. Like, if it were you, think about, and I would have this conversation with a lot of my guy friends. Think about the amount of girls you poured alcohol for and rolled weed for in college.
Yeah.
That can now come back and say, hey, I wasn't comfortable with that. And you drugged me because you provided the alcohol and you provided the weed.
You know, that's a great way to segue, because, you know, in my case, when I rolled and pulled up and all that good stuff, you know, they have no incentive to come and say that about me now unless I become rich and powerful, or either or. And you've been in the epicenter of the so-called storm of this, and I think it's pretty safe to say, as a woman in America, you probably experienced some tenuous situations, some potentially dangerous situations, and from tearing down celebrities to the Me Too movement to all this stuff that's happened. Do you personally feel America's gotten any safer from women? Because I'm not gonna lie,
Absolutely not.
I'm not convinced of that. Maybe on a Hollywood casting couch, it might be a little bit safer for a woman. But
let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the movement was hijacked. Okay, that movement had nothing to do with women who made choices and became rich off those choices, who now feel some type of way about those choices. That movement was not for those women, but it was hijacked. You know, it became a circus. It became a trend. So, and the biggest question is, with that movement, with the media outlets that exploited these women, at any point, did you go get them some therapy? Did you offer to pay for their therapy to make sure that mentally they're okay? No, you just exploited them.
They probably couldn't get a return phone call when the numbers went down too low in the articles.
So yeah, I just feel like, no, America's not safe for women.
I have daughters. I don't feel any better about my daughter at 7-Eleven by herself in the wrong area. And you know, I live outside Tampa. The wrong area is where the meth heads with MAGA hats are, you know, so.
Exactly. So it's disheartening, you know. I can tell you this, for as many people that didn't like that I supported him, I had another person that was encouraging that I was supportive. So it was a balance, you know. I didn't feel like, you know, I didn't have people sending me threats and anything like that. You know, no, they didn't like some of the comments that I made. Like there was, and I talk about this a little bit, there was an interview after he was found guilty, and I referenced Emmett Till. And I remember people just, oh, she invoked Emmett Till, and that's so wrong, and this and this and that. But let's speak on it. Emmett Till was murdered, right? Because someone lied on him, right?
Right.
This person went to court and testified, right? Lied in court, right? And didn't decide that it was, that they felt the need to say that they had lied until they were on their deathbed. So excuse me, if I don't feel that just because a person said it, they're telling the truth.
I mean,
I mean, it's just, you know, people, I feel like I'm so happy now that I'm not his spokesperson, because I get to speak for myself. Because the media was looking for anything that we said wrong, any slip up, in order to attack Bill Cosby. And at this point, with me being able to speak for myself, I feel that it can only help him. It couldn't hurt him. For someone else completely outside of the situation to tell their truth. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
And before we get out of here, just two quick things. You
yeah.
know, you're definitely still a very young person, and you were young at the time. Well, what advice would you give a young person dealing with someone who has a stature and power of a Bill Cosby, regardless of the situation? Like a
You mean if they've been
generalization.
assaulted or
No,
something
no,
like that?
not
Oh,
assaulted. It's just, you're young. When you meet powerful people, that's got to be intimidating in some shape, form, or fashion. Or if nothing else, there has to be a different way of treating the situation.
honestly, it's not for me personally. Um, like I said, I've been out here grinding for a long time. Like I skipped my senior prom to go. BET used to have this thing called Spring Bling. I don't know if you remember that,
I remember
but
Spring Bling.
I was an avid dancer back in the day. Like I knew I was going to grow up and be a background dancer. Okay. Like that was everything. And so I skipped my senior prom to go down to BET Spring Bling because my dance team entered into this competition. So before they had that show on MTV, what was that show? The dance show? Oh God, the one with Jabberwockies on it. I can't
You
remember.
got me on that
But
one.
anyways, America's Best Dance Crew. Before that show came out, BET used to do something called Revamped, where dance crews would come down and we would revamp a video and perform our choreography, and then the teams would win money. So I've kind of been around that industry for so long that I feel in my own rights that I am my own star, so we are equals. So I just say maintain your professionalism. If anything, don't feel like they're different from you.
Hey,
Because
you met Rachel from the Caribbean BET show. She be at them Spring Bling Jones. You remember Rachel from the?
I don't remember Rachel.
It
No,
was
but
like a show on VH1. It was like called like Caribbean Islands or something, but it's mostly like non dance hall reggae, to be real with you, or calypso music. It only came on like
uh-huh.
Saturdays or something.
See, I
That's what
didn't
Biggie was talking about when he was like girls that look like Rachel.
I never met her, but that particular Spring Bling, like that's when G Unit was really hot. So we got to meet 50 and Lloyd Banks, and like we stayed in a hotel with Cassidy when like all those people were hot. I graduated in '04, so now I'm aging myself. But
Were you surprised
yeah,
at how short they were?
oh my God, so short. They're my height. So, and then like I said, I just feel encourage myself so much that like I am my own inspiration in a sense. So like I said, when I see those people, the only difference I see is like they maybe at that time money.
Right.
I felt that I was as ambitious. I felt that I was as talented. So I didn't really see a difference between me and them.
And then I'd like to get out here on this end. Where does Ebonee Benson go from here? What's the next move?
Ebonee Benson is going to get this book out to y'all, get this podcast rolling for y'all. And then I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. I've been grinding for a long time, and this is the first time that I'm not so focused on the future as much as I am about just living in this present moment and doing what I know I have to do right now and letting the future take care of itself. I've had some conversations with some different celebrities, if that's the word you want to use, about joining their team, but I'm patient right now. And with everything that's going on in the world, I really enjoy being at home with my kid more. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's
The
a beautiful
sky's the
thing.
limit.
Yeah, it is. That's a beautiful thing. I look forward to seeing what you do and reading your book, and hopefully, when everything comes out, we can have you back on to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I know you'll send me a link of this because I'll definitely share it from my page once everything is up. I don't know if you're going to edit anything, but I really enjoyed this. Thank you for reaching out to me. And this is important to me. I'll say this. I feel like we didn't have enough opportunities like this with smaller media during the trial. And if I could go back and do anything, like it would be this, to have more, I feel like grassroots conversations, because those are the people that are actually supporting
Yeah, all they
mainstream
gave y'all
media.
was sound bites. They only gave y'all sound bites, and
That was
it's
it.
the worst.
That was it. And oh my gosh, it was the worst. Like
Anybody
I said
listening to
earlier,
this, look up her Good Morning America interview, and you'll see the worst of sound biting and what you lose from an open dialogue.
I'm telling you, my Good Morning America interview was probably, I was so, and also I'll say this, people didn't know that we could hear the women, and they said they did it purposely to get us flustered before they started interviewing us. So, and my thing is, it's like, why would you do that? Why?
Oh, they're trying to control the narrative. Anybody
I
thinks
came out
television
the gate
objective is?
swinging, and I came out the gate swinging, and they didn't like it, and I didn't care. And that Good Morning America interview is the interview where I did mention Emmett Till, and George Stephanopoulos was like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "But I'm so serious. A man is behind bars because someone lied. A young boy is dead because someone lied. I'm so serious." Like,
George Stephanopoulos is the one to be calling people out on things of that nature, right? What a world we live in, man! You couldn't write that shit.
out of all the people. So yeah, it was. And like I said, that interview kind of went both ways. Like I had the people from ABC called and was like, George was like, he was so embarrassed because he knew that he handled you wrong. Like he was so aggressive. You know what I mean? So it's like, what you want me to do? You're being aggressive. I'm gonna be aggressive. Let's just be aggressive together. So
It bees like that sometimes,
it
right?
bees like that, yeah. So I appreciate this. And like I said, let me know. And I'll be glad to come back on when the book comes out or before. If the Supreme Court makes a decision before the book comes out, I'll definitely hop back on with you and discuss that too.
Oh, thank you
Because
so much.
I think they'll have a decision the first of the year. I didn't think they would do anything before Christmas, but I think they'll definitely have made a decision sometime in the beginning of the year.
Oh, we'll see. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Ebonee Benson.
Thank you. Can they see me waving?